One, two, one, two, one, two. What up, what up, what up, everyone? What up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Black and Blanco, Uptown Voices. Man, it's a big day, my brother. How you doing, man? You wolfing over there, man. What's going on?
That's right. I'm wolfing out over here. I've got my beard on. I'm still in North Carolina. It's my country beard. It's my
Nice,
country beard, lad.
nice,
Um,
nice.
I'm I'm all I forgot my razor, and I'm all good to go. But yeah, no, I'm good here in North Carolina. Hanging out. My mom just brought some fresh figs from the from the fig tree. I don't know if you
Nice.
can see this. Have you ever eaten a fig before like this, like a
I'm
fresh
eating a
fig?
fig Newton.
A fig. Check this out. Look at the deliciousness.
Damn,
It's
that looks
all
good.
it's all juicy and mm,
Don't eat it while you're on camera. What is that? What are you doing?
mm, mm.
Oh, but yeah, man. So yeah, man. Another Sunday is a special Sunday too. Again, last. It's funny because last week, when we got off, we are talking about our story hit Pix 11 has
Yeah,
been pretty amazing, man. Like you're there. Have you felt like the love? Have you got people hit you up for it?
yeah. Like the day that it hit, um, we got a lot of we got a lot of people on Instagram just like extending their congratulations and saying how proud they were of us, and that meant a lot. It means a lot to see that. And it's opened a lot of doors, I think. I mean, doors that were opening. I think I got an invitation, but I couldn't go. But you were able to go to a very special event. Why don't you tell us about tell us about that?
Yeah, for sure. It's crazy, right? Because the last few years, I have spent my birthday. My birthday's August 13th. It just passed. So I usually the last 4 or 5 years I spend my birthday in Dominican Republic, right? And it's just like that. What I would like to like to do, but this year for a bunch of reasons it just didn't work. So to be honest, I really had no plans for my birthday. We were gonna have like a family dinner yesterday, which we did, but it wasn't really anything for my birthday. I was like, whatever. I went, I went to my day job and everything. I didn't take, nothing special. But like
Really,
the
you
day
worked
before,
you worked on your birthday?
yeah, I should have took day off. I know, man, stupid.
Ah, man,
But
that's a
but
ju-
you
that
know what
is
it is?
that is a
It's just like
rule. That is a rule that I have.
it's a
I
rule.
never
No,
let
for
them
real,
know that.
man. It is. But with my job, the way it is, if you take the day off, you can't get overtime. I need that overtime right now. I got to
Oh,
make that
got you,
money.
got you, got you, got you.
But anyway, so I wasn't really planning anything on my birthday, you know what I mean? And then I get that whole the invite for the mayor's Dominican Day event, which was amazing, and so my birthday I spent it with the mayor of the hour, the mayor of the world, the people's
Yeah,
president, Mayor Mamdani, and I also got to very briefly see Daria Lisa, our next congresswoman, for the 13th district. So it was really nice. But beyond them, it was a room full of just powerful people, man. Like
yeah.
Mike Diaz, Juan Baga was there as always, my brother. But there were just so many. Like Merrill was there. So
I
many people
saw
you
your
see on
picture
social.
with Mero for sure.
Yeah, I wanted to get to Merrill in a second, but there were so many powerful people doing so many beautiful things there that I was really proud to be Dominican. There were so many people within the administration that are Dominican powerhouse people doing great things. So I was really proud to be in that room. And with Merrill specifically, it was cool because I wanted to go say what's up to him, but from the side of the room, he was like just like this, and then he shows so much love. Says he taps in whenever he can. So to hear that kind of encouragement for someone that I admire who's doing such big things, who basically was went from a podcast to being like a superstar on High 97 every day. He did he did a televised Dominican Day parade last Sunday. Like, so he's a superstar, and for him to say, yo, bro, happy. He also wished me happy birthday because my wife was telling everyone that it was my birthday. So he wished me happy birthday. He said, keep going, keep doing that. Then a lot of people did that. A lot of people came up to me and said, especially with the Espaillat, when I gave the Lisa endorsement, a lot of people said thanks for that, for doing that. So it was a beautiful event. And it shows like also a lot of people like the podcast, which is really catching on. But it was a special event. And one thing I want to say that like again, like, I gotta give the mayor like really some credit, right? Because this man, gave a speech, right? That he has to do this speech for every nationality, right? Like, because he's gonna show love, and he makes sure that he's culturally relevant. That he touches on things that make sense for every particular audience. And I got, and again, I'm not saying that's all him. I'm sure he has a great staff, right? But you could tell that there's a where he's listening, and there's a give and take. And the speech that this man gave was just really amazing. I captured it on Uptown Collective's IG. You can check it out. But he starts off the speech with wanting to recognize Joanna Fernandez, right?
Yeah.
Who died July 30th, just recently. And she's a powerhouse academic professor. She, her whole life was really about, a lot of her scholarship was about the young lords. I remember, in 2020 during the pandemic, marching with her. She led a march from up here in the Heights all the way to, and it ended at the People's Church in East Harlem. You know what I mean? The church that the young lords occupy. And she was such a powerful figure and an important figure in uptown, and and in Afro Latinidad. Like, she was a powerhouse. Rest in peace to her. And for Mamdani to begin his speech that way, and he was wearing the chacabana, you know what I'm saying? And so he talked about bachata, he talked about all these things about Ventura, he like, but to start the speech with Joanna Fernandez, what I'm saying, was such a touch that I was like, yo, this man, like, incredible. So it was a beautiful night. We were in the mansion, the Gracie mansion, you know what I mean? I think the food was like Cocina de Yala, if I'm not mistaken, which is they have a spot in the Bronx, but I think also have one in like the Dyckman City area. And the food was really good. Everything was really good. It was so many powerful people, mostly Dominican, but some non-Dominicans, and like so many people want to have like on the podcast. So I was like, yo, can we get you on the podcast? Yo, you know what I mean? I'm always
Oh,
politicking. You know that.
nice,
I'm always
nice, nice.
politicking, always networking. So
Thank
like
you.
there's a lot of people that I want to have on the show, because a lot of people are doing so many amazing things, and it's weird because even when people they're like, oh yeah, I live here, but my story from the Heights is here. Like, they have so
Yeah.
much connections to this community, or in Harlem and Inwood. You know what I mean? So it was really a really great event.
I am so, pleased that it was great, and I'm so happy to hear that were politicking and making connections, networking, being seen. You yourself being seen in
Oh,
that room,
oh, hey, wait a
like
minute, wait a minute. Let me say, you said this when we were offline, right? Because I predicted this, right? I said
yes,
I
yes.
said it. I have it on tape. We look back late July. I'm like, yo, late Leo season has begun. I feel like I'm levitating. You know what I'm saying? And again,
Yeah.
it's it's not bragging. I'm just saying, like, it's Leo season, and like a Leo like myself, I'm a double Leo. My given name is Leo. I'm a double Leo. That's crazy. On the 13th, a special number. I'm not gonna get into my numerology obsession, but listen. So I said I was levitating, right? We had a double segment on Pix 11.
Yes.
I had a segment on CBS talking about the thing I talk about almost every day: heroin in the Heights
Yes.
and Uptown. Right, on my birthday, I get
On
to
your
hang out with
birthday.
the on my birthday, on the day the 13th. I get to hang out with such amazing people in this one place. Just powerhouses, and be with the mayor, and be with Aria Lisa. You know what I mean? Like, who's our next congresswoman? You know what I mean? Like, that to me, it shows that like we have power as a Dominican community and as a Latino community, and that we have to exercise it, and that that thing where we stay quiet, like again, I'm no longer. You think, I know you don't think I stay quiet, but I'm really not gonna stay quiet now. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be louder and
You're
brasher
louder.
and bolder. I'm gonna be more lead black in every possible way. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
but again, all bullshit aside, like I think it's important. I want to say again, I know we talked about this last week, but today is actually the day of la restauración, right? It's the
Yes.
restoration day where we
Hmm.
celebrate it. August 16th, 1863, right? It's called Grito de Capotillo. I thought it was Capotillo in the capital, no, but it says Dajabon, which is right by the border with Haiti. But that's where the fight, was declared to get rid of Spanish rule again, right? So, like I said before, Spain's taxes, rules and racism was like too much for Dominicans. They're like, nah, we don't want you motherfuckers either. Fuck out of here. You know what I'm saying? So that begins it. And that's what known as the restoration. And I said before, I think as Dominicans now, you know, we need another restoration. We really need to look at who we are as Dominicans and where we are with Africanness, our blackness. You know what I mean? And I think that we need we need to do like a new identity check to see who we are. And I say that because right now is a crucial time in our history, right? As Dominicans, right? And I think that like Dominicans here in this country, like, I keep hearing, I heard it first from Carmen, but the mayor's been saying it as well. 1 in 8 New Yorkers is Dominican, right? So
Yeah,
that
he
might not mean
said
the
he
state,
said it doesn't matter where you're from, everything you touch in New York has some Dominican in it.
and that's a lot of power if we want to use it. And then there's power that's bigger than uptown New York City. It's power right now, right nationally, right? Because we have someone like Daria Lisa, you know what I'm saying? Like in Congress almost, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's power nationally, but it's also power globally, like power back home. I think that with the way the situation is in DR, the many things that are going on in DR right now, I think it's incumbent on Dominicans here, to look there as well to see, hey, how can we improve things there? Like, how can we bring the resources and the shared power that we have to bear results over there? Because I think DR needs it, and to work with people down there, because I feel sometimes like the bullshit gets amplified, and the real voice, because there are plenty of real voices in DR doing the right work, not down with Alafoque, right? All that shit. But they have to be amplified. So I feel it's important for us as Dominicans here to do that. You know what I mean? And can I say one more thing? Again, this is
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I also want to like go tell another little story real quick, right? About
It's this is your space, my brother. You can
I
take up
appreciate it,
as much
appreciate it.
time as you want, my brother.
Yeah, so I just wanted, so there's an Indian chieftain, a Taino chieftain, a cacique named Hathaway back in the days, early
Halfway. Yeah.
1500s. This was the early period in the encounter where if it's funny, right? I was just thinking about a people's history of the United States by Howard Zinn, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think the one book that everyone in this country should read. Right,
Hmm.
there's many more books, of course, but that one should be is one of along many that
It's
you
on the
should
lead
read.
black you must reads.
Exactly, you know what I'm saying, and it's interesting because even though it's a people's history of the United States, he actually begins the book, you know, the narrative part of the book in Dominican Republic in the island of Hispaniola,
Mm,
and he talks about what Columbus and the Spaniards did to the Taínos, right?
mm,
So it begins where, like, if you didn't bring back a certain quote, basically the Spaniards imposed like quotas because they came there for gold and conquest, right? So every Taino had to bring X amount of gold back, or they would get limbs amputated,
damn.
right? Right. Another thing people don't know, I'll give you another little tidbit. Like in the yuca with the Dominicans eat, that's a Taino food. If you eat it
Mm-hmm.
raw, it has cyanide and you could die. So the
Oh, oh,
Tainas used to eat it raw when they knew the Spaniards were coming, because then they knew that the Spaniards were about to destroy everything and they might get raped and the pillage. So they would kill themselves on purpose. Just to show you who the Spaniards and Europeans were.
yeah. And
Okay, just giving you a little
it
bit,
wasn't a might
right?
happen
And you
situation.
think about like this. They say that within less than 100 years, right? Basically, the Taino population was decimated, right? They of course left a genealogical record, right? Like in the DNA of the Dominicans, even though it's small compared to the African, amount, but it's still there, and the spirit of the Tainos there. But they were eradicated. You know what I mean? The disease destroyed them. They were not. This is not the life that we're used to, right? So again, Atue comes in this era of the Spanish encounter with the Taino people on the island Hispaniola. He was the cacique of what they call Guanabana, which is now on the Haiti side. There was no Haiti DR side at that time, right? But he was on the Haitian side. So he saw what the Spaniards were doing, right? And what he did, he took 400 some odd men and in canoes went to Cuba to warn the Tainos there. The thing was that he could not get them to understand what was coming, right? The Tainos there were like, they got trade. We could trade. This is gonna be great for us. But Hatue was like, no, you don't know. These people are not like us. It's not about trade. They want to destroy and ravage. So anyway, eventually, I think 1512, he gets captured, right? And he's about to get burned in front of his people to see, look what happens to your leaders. And the Spanish were giving him like not a reprieve to live, but a reprieve so his soul could go to heaven. So they say, hey, in this right before you die, do you want to convert to Christianity so you could be in heaven? You know what I'm saying? He's like, so if I go to heaven, it's going to be more you Spanish Christians. And he said, yeah. He said, nah, go send me to the other place. I don't want to go there. You know what I'm saying? And that's amazing. I say all that to say, and Hatue, and what's amazing, because Hatue left the island of Quisqueya to go to the island of Cuba, right? He's Cuba's first national hero, right? You could consider him one of the first anti-imperial fighters in the world, right? He's that important, right? So there's a beer. His name Hatue is an important figure. Like there was a Malta with his name, right? And I say all that to say that Hatue did that in the name of solidarity, right? He left his island to go to the other island because they were together. They were a unit in a sense, right? All the Antilles were because they didn't look at themselves as separated in that way, right?
Yeah.
And I say that all to say that last week, the Dominican Republic, under the government of Abinader, basically expelled all of the Cuban diplomats in Dominican Republic with their families. They gave them 7 days to leave, right? So again, that was not the choice of the Dominican Republic. That was their masters in Washington say, hey, yo, wrap it up. They basically said, yo, I'm gonna need y'all to wrap this up. And the Abinader government said, yes, sir. Yes, master. We'll do what you want. I think it's disgraceful. And another on the list of like shit for this fucking government in DR, right? Like there's no solidarity there. You know what I mean? There's no solidarity. You're just expelling people in the worst moments, right? Where they don't have any gas, any oil, right? They're hot. They basically, the garbage is piling up, right? And the tourism is drying up, and it's a medieval siege on a whole island, the biggest island in the Caribbean, arguably the most important culturally, right? Like everything comes out of Cuba, out of the song, right? And these people are being starved to death, and it's like cool, and no one's doing shit about it. They're talking about nothing's happening, like, and that's fucking criminal. And for the Dominican government to say, yeah, on top of all that, get out of here. You have 7 days to leave. To your Cuban brothers and sisters, regardless of ideology, right? Like, I'm really like we have to see the direction that all of Latin America is going through. Like again, let's talk. I'm sorry, but I have to say one more thing about like Colombia, right? Colombia is not going through this horrific. I hate to say the word horrific because of the way politicians have made. That's what when they don't want to say genocide, they say horrific. But the truly horrific earthquake that hit Colombia.
I mean, it's a tragedy. It's tragic.
It's a tragedy. It's tragic, right? And it hit in the predominantly black part of Colombia, the part that's been always like under resourced that no one gives a fuck about. Like, so it now hit there. And I even saw some like Colombian others saying, I want another one to hit there because those people don't belong here, like really foul shit. But regardless of that, like the Colombian people are going through so much right now, and their president could give a fuck. They show him Abelardo. They show him when like when the hurricane is like the aftermath is there, and he's there acting like he's a superstar, like he's Trump, you know. And he denied Mexican like they have. I didn't know this, but Mexico has like really good earthquake detection and you know whatever you safety people, right? Like they dig people out of the rubble. That's their job. They're great
Los
at it.
topos de México.
Los Topos de Mexico, and he denied them because we have our own expertise. But he didn't want to take assistance from the left.
Mhm.
Like I think like what Trump did here is horrible in terms of like how fast he did it. But the thing happened in Colombia, right? Like right off the bat, you see they're like, oh, this is a joke. Because you look, there's plenty of videos of Abelardo talking about he's an atheist, and then the next video he's like, oh, I love Christ and the armor of Christ. Like he's like he's as execrable as Ted Cruz, but then he has like this kind of like he thinks he's the fucking man, and it's just such bad leadership. And again, it's not even leadership; it's just the figurehead, for to allow America and other interests to basically just reconquer our lands and shit on us, right? I
Mhm.
also read there's another story about DR where there's gonna be like a new restrictions on public assistance here. Like you have to make sure you're not gonna, but just for Dominicans, it's a slippery slope, and I
Here,
can't believe
here,
this.
here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have to read up more on it, but again, it's like it's we have to become aware. We have to start organizing because this shit is not a joke. It's real deal.
Yeah, a couple points. The election in Colombia was actually very close.
Mm-hmm.
Same with the election in the United States. It was actually very close. So let's not forget that even though they won, it's by no means a mandate, and so things can change. So I appreciate what you're saying, and I think it's true, but I also want to, I guess, make sure that we understand that it's dangerous, absolutely, but it's not a mandate because the elections were so close. So
But
unfortunately,
I have to say that this right is no respecter of they don't care if they don't have
no,
a
I
mandate.
know, no,
They're running it like have a mandate. And again, I'm just saying like this is
no, but
bad. Like once
I'm
you
just
lose to the
saying,
right, you lose the ground. Like
no,
it's not like
I'm
hunky
not
dory.
I'm not disagreeing with you. All I'm saying is that in countries like Colombia, and they have a long history of having I would say having a long fuse, but when that fuse burns out, things can get really explosive. So don't discount the left, and I hope things don't reach that level. I hope that democracy or whatever close to it can prevail in and put in people who actually care about their people and not just protecting the rich, because I think that's what we've seen
But you know what?
happening.
As we talk about this, I think the whole point is destabilization,
Hmm.
right? The whole point is to destabilize our countries. It's not to put competent people installed to keep the machinery running.
No, of
For
course not.
it's to destabilize and allow the natural resources of these countries to just be taken,
Yeah,
right? It's putting these is
he wants to go back to the 50s when the United States ran everything and our companies owned everything, and they could just basically treat the population like slaves and pay them nothing and have them produce, and all the you know uh, earnings would come to the United States and nothing would stay in the country. So absolutely, I'm not in any way disagreeing with you. I do think that there's this move to be the extractive, even more supercharged than we already are, the extractive superpowers on Latin American people who don't really care about Latin American people. This idea that if you help the richest people in the country, that's going to trickle down to the poorest, has already been proven to not work. Look at what's happening in the United States. Our discrepancy between rich and poor is growing so quickly. So
facts.
yes, you're right that it's dangerous, and you're right that this guy, in Colombia, is is a clown, but he's a clown with a lot of power, and he's a clown who wants to let the MAGA right become even more rich than it's becoming here in the
Hmm.
United States, from all of the corruption that we're seeing. Um,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
also I
It's
also
a.
wanted to I also want to go back to the expelling of the Cuban diplomats from Dominican Republic.
Hmm.
It's a shame because it just shows you that the United States is really not interested in finding a resolution to the issue in Cuba. Um, we had Julissa Reynoso on the program a few months ago, and she was a former U.S. ambassador, um, but also was part of the Biden administration. And while she was in the Biden and Obama administration, that's when the United States was trying to find a solution to the Cuba issue. We were getting closer. We were trying to reopen trade. For a while there, it was legal to travel to Cuba for Americans. They reopened that kind of thing. But that wouldn't have happened without Julissa being able to go to Dominican Republic and meet with secretly with Cuban diplomats, so that there was a conversation that was happening. So you know the fact that they're no longer in Dominican Republic means that that door is shut. That there's a really difficult, like they're not going to be, the United States can't really communicate with the Cuban government, and that they're just, I think, eventually just gonna go militarily in there. It seems that that's the way it's going, or that they're just shutting it down. And perhaps the United States is trying to, somehow see the desperation, and also strangely, and I don't think it's the United States. You see the resilience of Cuba.
Install someone in power
Yeah,
and you extract, and who gives a fuck about the natives there, right? And that's what's happening. And it's like, so it's, it's Abelardo's a clown, but it's a coalition of clowns,
yeah,
right? And again, I think one thing we have to really think about, right, is when you combine this with the what's happening with Iran. America can no longer um, just project force in the way that it used to, right? The myth of invisibility is gone, but also the actual stockpiles of highly, sophisticated
yeah,
weapons. You know what I mean? Like they're down to like,
yeah,
scary levels,
yeah. I
right?
mean, for
So
sure.
what I'm saying is, so what America's doing, right? And I'm not sure who behind this is so who in Marco Rubio's office is actually doing these things, right? But it's actually it's coming together. It's evil and fucked up, but it is coming together, right? The whole shield or the sword or whatever of Latin America, whatever they call this shit, the sword or the shield,
It's the
whatever.
shield, but it's really the sword because it wants to
It's really
kill
the
us.
sword, right? But right, exactly. But what it's a concerted effort, right, to push out any left governments in all of Latin America, right? And Colombia was a big stone to fall, right? And that happened, but it's concerted. And again, what I'm trying to say is that the American government is trying to do these things on the cheap as much as possible, right? Because of limitations on munitions, and it cannot do things the way it did. So what it is like basically using us as satraps, right? Like, okay, you're in power out there, then here, make sure that the multinationals buy out your country. We need you for when we said the deportees, even from other countries, we want you to process them. It's temporary, right? And again, El Salvador, that you have like a secret prison. If we need prisoners there that we may want to do, secret ops on, and whatever. We have a connection there, and that's what it's creating. And it's saying, okay, You guys do the work of what we tell you to do. We're gonna use America's using its leverage, like the money and the power and prestige of being affiliated with America against all these countries. And again, it's brutal. Like I don't. It's like it's weird because sometimes I feel like everything has happened. Like I don't know. There's a story early this week where ICE is getting new gloves, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
these gloves have like they'll put you down. Any man, it doesn't matter how big you are,
They're electric.
within seconds. They're electric. It's like some Tony Stark's
They're like
Iron Man shit.
taser gloves.
Taser gloves, but much worse. Meaning like, if I overdo this for like 3 minutes, I can kill you
Same with a
type shit.
taser. Same with a taser.
Same with a taser, true. But when I say a taser, it's still a little different, right? It's a little different, right? Because if I'm in a tussle with you and I feel you're struggling against me, I'm gonna hold you down, right? It's
Hmm.
different. Taser is this, you know what I'm saying? This
Hmm.
is like,
Hmm.
it's visceral in a different way. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? So you already see how technology being used to oppress us, right? And I think that's what's kind of at hand, right? Like this kind of like with the flock cameras, we're logging everything we do. Like there's this thing that's taking place in the society that like I think we need to open our eyes to because in our countries are like Dominican Republic, Colombia, Ecuador, right? Like all these countries, like Mexico and Brazil, are the last man standing. Like Cuba, and Cuba's doing, like they really, and we said we do nothing. Nothing happens. No one cuts ties. Nothing happens. While a modern day country is like strangled to death. Insane.
Yeah.
And Espaillat was the leader of the the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, and he a lot of pretty words, but nothing happened. I had to say that.
Yeah, nothing happened. And one thing that you're very tied into, Dominican social media. And one thing that we've talked a lot about Alofoque and highlighted what a dangerous person he is. I think what we also need to do, frankly, is make sure that we're also bringing to light the other side of the coin. So let's try to, as in the next week, in the next few weeks, and months and years, however long it takes, to make sure that we're bringing to light the other side of the coin, so that folks don't get they're rope doped into thinking that there isn't like another side of the coin, that everybody in Dominican Republic is for people like Alofoque, who, you know, controls attention. He controls attention. And, we saw that on the Dominican Day Parade. The guy tried to start a fight with the Dominican reporter.
Journalists. Yeah.
And so, like, he's a thug, but he's a thug who's got the backing of the U.S. government. We know he likes to hang out with the U.S. ambassador there
Mm-hmm.
in Dominican Republic, and so I think a lot of people uh, may be lulled into thinking that, oh, he's just like a fun TV guy. He has his show, and I like that. So I like his show. So
Mm-hmm.
what's the big deal? And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, unfortunately, because the fact that he has this TV show doesn't mean that he's harmless. He's actually very
Yeah.
dangerous. And here
Yeah.
are some of the people that you need to talk to. And there's a lot of people here in the United States, also, that are Dominican journalists, who I think we should be bringing onto the program as well, to discuss these issues.
Yep.
I know, and so to the audience that's watching right now, um, I know that you led, and I agree that we can commit to making sure that a lot of those voices appear here, so that everybody who's watching us gets the opportunity to see the other side of the coin, and to understand why a person like Alafoque, and why the United States under the Trump regime is such a dangerous thing
Yep.
in Latin America. It's too late in Colombia right now, although it's
Mm-hmm.
hopefully never too late, because things can change. It's just going to take years for this guy to for there to be another election. So
Yeah, yeah, and that's one thing I personally want to do more of, right? Like use my platform and my voice to warn of what I seen before the Trujillo 2.0, the impending right wing revolution in Dominican Republic. You know what I'm saying? I heard a funny Dominican saying recently, and the guy said, "Está tarde para ablandar la bichuela." You know what I'm saying? Because when you gotta do beans, they gotta be softened before to make it. So you can't try to get those beans softened when you need to make the meal. That's the point of it. Don't wait. That things need to be done. It's too late now. That's the point of that whole phrase. You know what I mean? And I don't want it to be too late. So I'm going to do that, right? Because he's not just a thug, like you said. He's a thug with a template, meaning he knows what works. Anti-immigrant hysteria. We got that Haiti, right?
Hmm.
Let's demonize them, scapegoat them. They're the problem, right? So anything that happens in the Dominican Republic that has nothing to do with
He
Haitians,
finds a way. He finds a way.
right? So that young 19-year-old that got killed in Herrera by police, brutally, like the cop had been like the cop didn't even like just look to this. He was dealing with someone in front of him. He just went like this with his gun, like on some like movie shit, like God, just kill a young 19-year-old. And the country was very upset by that. And the next day, like I said before, Alafoga goes, see how they treat Dominicans? Why they don't do that to Haitians? He's talking
Hmm.
about like if a Haitian kills a Dominican person, killing them on the spot. Recently, like last week, we had the Central American Games in the capital. A lot of Dominicans won. A lot of Dominicans of Haitian descent have won as well. And he says, "I don't want those medals. Don't represent me." This is a person that again, and just to reiterate, when you're a Olympic level athlete in the Dominican Republic, not just the Dominican Republic, throughout the world, but I'm talking about the Dominican Republic. When you're an Olympic level athlete in the Dominican Republic, it ain't prestigious, right? You may get like the government may give you something if you win really big, right? But you don't have like a regular salary. You work in a regular job or finding ways to because it's one of those things that it's you have to be that. You have
And
to train
frankly,
every day. You
frankly,
have to eat every certain way.
and frankly, in the United States, it's very similar for athletes who are not professional. You know, the Olympic
But
athletes.
imagine
But
how
imagine,
much worse
yeah,
in Dominican
yeah,
Republic, right?
of course,
So
yeah.
so yeah, yeah, the United States, I get it. Yes, it should be like Western Europe. But DR is next level, right? It's like it's like these people are national heroes, and now you're talking about because their parents are Haitian, but like these people grew up in DR, they're Dominican, they're Dominican, right? Like so, I think it's important that that we discuss those things, man, for real.
Yeah, and I just want to say, shout out to everybody who's watching us on Uptown Voices, and shout out to everybody who's watching on Uptown Collective. Get in that conversation. If you have something to say, make sure that you're sharing your thoughts with us on the chat. That's why we do this. That's the best. That is like the best. I would say use of this platform, right? Like
Yeah,
otherwise, it's not really useful. So please, everybody who's been on watching us, thank you. Thank you for being here. I see a lot of familiar names out there who've joined, and also I see a lot of unfamiliar names, which is also wonderful because that means that these are folks that have heard of us through friends, through social media, however you heard of us and you're interested. So I just want to say thank you for being here. Please, you know, add your comments,
subscribe to our channel.
subscribe to our channel, all that stuff. It's really wonderful, and we're so proud to be able to be here and to be able to offer our voices, but also like offer our platform for your voices, right? Offer our platform for you to be heard. I think that and I think we need to talk about Dyckman and that takeover. I
Yeah,
think we that's something that we definitely need to discuss
to
because
address. Yep.
frankly I think that part of it is that with all that power that you're describing, with all those people that are powerful in those rooms, it still hasn't reached the masses of people to feel that they have that power. And so hopefully, in this conversation on this platform, where we are devoted to highlighting the people's voices, not just Led and Octavio, but it's your space too. We want to make sure that everybody who has something to say or who wants to make change can have a place to do that. So yeah, I think that the youth that is buck wilding, I don't know that they're necessarily from here. Some of them must be, but I do think a lot of them came from outside of the community. And I don't think that outside of the community, outside of New York City, that feeling of empowerment, that feeling of like I can affect change is being felt, because don't forget, our communities are under attack, not just here in New York City, but all over the country. And so people are feeling very, very um,
I'll tell you, what are you saying? I'm not following. So what are you saying? Are you trying to give a reason for this? Is that what you're trying to do? Because I
I
just
think
don't understand.
so. Yeah, I think so. I want to find that there's a reason for this. That there is a reason for this. I'm not excusing it. I'm not excusing it at all. But I do
But
feel that there
I
is
think,
a reason for the chaos.
but what I'm saying is, you saw it when you went to High Bridge,
Yes, I did.
right? You saw it with your own eyes, right?
Yeah.
And again, I think you again, it's almost unfair, right? To for anyone to anticipate some of these things, but it also, that's what you're supposed to do when you're in government, right? So since I was a youth, right, people would come from after the Dominican Day Parade uptown. It's been happening forever. The Dyckman thing, that's really a relatively new thing, right? Because Dyckman really started popping, you know, 2000, like late 2000s, right? 2009, 10, 11. That's when it really became Dyckman in terms of people from everywhere coming here. Before, people used to come through at the actual heights. We used to do a thing behind what we call George Washington University, where Amsterdam becomes Fort George Ave. That used to be a big thing back in the days.
Mhm.
But the thing is that, like, with this Dominican Day Parade, it's gotten so big that basically the whole diasporas here, but also kids that are not Dominican from other places. And I just think that whenever you have so many people, right, especially of a certain age, right, like that's I was that age too. You know what I mean? Like, and people say, "Oh, I wasn't that bad." Yeah, you may not have been that bad, but if there was a bunch of you in one place, you might have been that bad, right? And so I'm saying I'm not trying to excuse it either, right? Because I think these kids acted horribly. They damaged so much property. But what I'm
Mhm.
saying is that it becomes a mob mentality. That's an actual thing, right? I see this person climbing, I'm gonna climb, and then
Yeah.
next thing everyone starts doing because they see someone else doing it. So
Yeah.
I think that I say all that to say that today, like, Dyckman is gonna be like shut down. Like, there's an extra 600 cops. There's gonna be
Barricades everywhere.
barricades, because there's been on social media this rumor that they're doing another takeover uptown. And
Hmm.
I found out about it because my brother Calixto said, "Yo, lad, have you seen what the mayor posted?" So I'm like, "Oh, let me look what the mayor posted about the Dyckman thing." But when he was saying the mayor, he was talking about my brother Mike Jones, the mayor DP on social media. So I was like, I looked at NYC mayor, I looked at Zoran. No, it was the mayor, Mike Jones. Okay, my bad. So I looked at my brother Mike Jones, and he basically like was saying, "Hey, look, authorities, please do something about this, because the people of this community, the young people are not happy with it, and they don't want to be the ones that have to, like, hey guys, this shit is not welcome here, because then it'll get ugly." So it's to say that, like, this wasn't people from the community, right? This was outside folks, and it was just too many. It wasn't properly policed. And again, the you know there's also like a thing among young people now, like this takeover mentality that
Yeah.
happens, and it becomes like it's encouraged, and that's real too. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to criminalize our youth, but I don't think these kids need to be, but this can't happen. Like, there
So
was
so
so much damage done.
let me hop in there because two things. Well, So with the pool situation, I remember right when that pool thing happened, I even was at the mayor's, and I said to the mayor, "What are you going to do in the next heat wave? Because this can't this the way that it's organized is not working. It just doesn't work. There's ways that
Mhm.
we can like organize this so that people can, I don't know, get wristbands for a certain time. There's all kinds of things that you could do. Real thought needs to be put into how do we organize these things. It's true that like when it's not super hot, you can go to the pool and no problem. But when it's super hot, and to avoid takeovers like this, you need to have some kind of processes in place. Everybody, including you, led, we're like, no, no, nobody's ever going to do that. Just wait in line. Fine, okay. Um, with what happened at Dyckman, in my opinion, it's like the parade is one thing. We know people after the parade come uptown to hang out and to continue celebrating. But I didn't see, except for Que Lo Que, I didn't see any like activations uptown. I didn't see like a space that was dedicated to the post parade party that happens uptown. I didn't see that. We've got Dyckman Fields all the way at the end of Dyckman Street. You could have put up food trucks there. You could put a stage there with musicians to come. You could put like a water feature there so kids can jump in the water and get cooled off. And that's far away from Quisqueya Plaza, but people need to walk through there. So on their way there, they could have dinner and drinks or whatever, and send people into a place that can accommodate a large crowd like that. I didn't see that kind of post parade activation. So my solution that I would, and I'm sure, and I know that people are talking about this already, is to figure out what is a post parade activation that we should be organizing. Either the organizers of the parade
Yeah.
need to organize post event activations in collaboration with, like, let's say the Washington Heights Inwood Chamber of Commerce, with uh, Carmen De La Rosa's office,
Uptown Collective,
Uptown
Uptown
Collective,
Voices. You know
Uptown
what I mean?
Voices,
For real. Like
exactly.
I,
Like,
no, but
no,
I,
absolutely. Look,
but
I
yeah, but
even
I have
say,
a, actually,
wait,
yeah.
one more thing. I don't think it's even crazy to say we should rent out Yankee Stadium and open up Yankee Stadium for a post parade party, and have like musicians go there and do that. Like, I
No,
think
I don't. Yankee Stadium's never gonna. Yankee Stadium's
here we
never gonna
go.
do that.
Here we go
Not a good
with
idea.
Yankee Stadium's never
What?
going to do that. We
I'm gonna
need
give you
to
my good
ask.
idea.
We need to ask. But anyway, I just, oh, you give me your good idea, but
No, but I mean,
I just want to say it gets shot down before we even try.
yeah, but I'm saying like the Yankee Stadium is not the place either. Like Yankee Stadium is that's another recipe for chaos, right? I think what we should do is go back to the original behind George Washington, right?
Mm,
What's great about that area is that you can make sure there's no cars, right? So it's and there's no buildings, right? And it runs from 190th all the way to 193rd, but it's again it's much bigger because it's a big park,
that big
right?
circle.
And you can control access. You can control access both in and out, right? And that's how we did it before. There was no cops then before, and we would have a good time. And there'd be other things to do. You could buy food. There were performances there. Like that's the perfect place, right? Because again, I think Dyckman Fields, while Dyckman Fields is great, I don't think it's the place. You don't want to do more things on Dyckman. You
Hmm.
don't want to add to the Dyckman parade, right?
Yeah,
You don't want to say, "Hey, come to Dyckman," right? Like it's just too much. Like
I don't
Dyckman
know.
needs to have, especially on that day, they can make a lot of money, right? But let me finish, please. What I'm saying to you is, there's too much for Dyckman to take, and then those businesses don't make money
Mhm.
because other people don't come. So Dyckman is not the place. Dyckman needs to be moved. It needs to go away. Like you don't want to say, "Hey, sanction something within that area." That makes no sense. But I
But
think we go back to around the bend, back to the historical where we used to do it. I think that's the best place to do it. And that's what I've already suggested at certain people because I would love to be involved somehow in doing that. So I've talked to certain people about that.
Yeah, so have I. I've talked to certain people about Dyckman Fields because I hear what you're saying, and I actually think it's a good idea, and it would bring a lot of business to folks like in the 190s and St. Nicholas and that whole strip of the Heights that could use some extra shine, frankly, right? Like that's where we want to maybe focus. So I think that's a brilliant idea. The reason why I was thinking Dyckman Fields obviously was because it's big, right? And it's flat, and it's easy
Hmm.
because you really have like just one point of entry, unless you're talking about Inwood Hill Park, which is like not that easy to get in and out of. And you'd have like foot traffic of people who are walking to the big party on Dyckman Fields and going by all those restaurants on Dyckman that could like get that business, because you're right, when you have too many people in that mob mentality, none of those businesses will make money because they all have
Yeah.
to shut down. So
Yeah, yeah.
and
It's funny
and
because I talked to Niles. I talked to Niles, and he was like, "This was horrible. Like it was not good. This was the worst thing he's ever seen. And he made less money. So all those people lost money. And again, that's why I think you're right about Dyckman Fields. I love the idea, and I would love to do activations there, but not on the Dominican Day Parade. You don't want to say, "Hey, come to Dyckman on the Dominican Day Parade." That doesn't make any sense.
yeah, I hear you. Also, there's another thought for people who are watching, is that it doesn't have to be one place. Activations can be uptown on in the historical area that you're talking about. It could also be at the same on the same day. It could be an activation in the Bronx, in an area that works. On the same day, it could be an activation in Brooklyn, right? Because Dominicans historically are prevalent here in Little Dominican Republic, but we're everywhere, or they're everywhere. I'm not Dominican, I'm Mexican, but I feel like Dominican by association. But there's those things. So maybe before we do a number of different activations all across the city, we need to consider doing at least one post parade activation in a place that can accommodate the throngs. And like I say, like I think that like your idea is great because I can see the need on the 190s. There's a lot of restaurants there that could use the traffic to do an activation in that area. And that crowd can also easily get down to Dyckman if they really want to. They could go
Yeah,
down Fort
and you
George
can make
Hill.
it. You
You
know,
know,
the thing is that you have to have provide public safety, right? And again, just putting parameters like RSVP, even to get in, you got to put in the name, and
yeah,
again, it has to be controlled. But creating something and working in tandem, with the city and with the Dominican Day Parade, I think there's logical answers to this problem.
and
But
and
it is a
and
problem. You
Uptown
can't just let
Voices
anyone
and
come in.
Uptown Collective wants to be a part of it.
Man, for sure, for real.
Oh man, so I hope that it's peaceful on Dyckman Street. I hope that the businesses can. I hope that they stay open today and only close if things do get out of hand. My prediction, it's not going to get out of hand. My prediction is that people are going to have a nice day on Dyckman Street today, and
Yeah, I
that's
agree.
my hope.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly because I think the input is not there. The input was the Dominican Day Parade, right? And that the whole diaspora here and then everyone else that wants to party with Dominicans is there as well. And again, the problem is that this, for the most part, it's all love. That's what sucks about it. That it's mostly not people causing trouble, right? But then a few people just really truly do mess it up for everyone else. And again, one thing is that you have to have public safety because sometimes these little dudes is really like they're really out there banging in the streets, right? And it's like they
Yeah,
see each other, right? I saw that's my enemy in my block in the Bronx. That's the other gang, and then they go at each other. So sometimes it's not even attacks against regular people. Sometimes it's between a block beef that they have. You know what I mean? So it gets really out of hand. So that's why you have to check for weapons, all these things. Like some two people lost. Well, one
yep.
person lost their lives
And
last
one
Sunday.
and one was critically injured. I
One
think,
was
and
critically injured.
I
Right,
don't know
someone
how.
died. He was
Yeah,
23 years old or some
yeah.
shit from Long Island. right?
Mm.
Because that's the thing is like another thing that's not talked about, right? Is Dyckman. Dyckman is not just a street.
Yeah.
Dyckman City is a universe,
Yeah,
right?
it's a
And
state of mind, really. It's
right,
really.
yeah, and the thing is that it's this little contained area where a lot of people that are not from there want to chill. They come cop their weed, come. I'm chilling. I'm doing this, and I'm seeing. I go to a restaurant here. So a lot of people are not from here, and then you chill on certain blocks, and it gets really dangerous. And two people like a person lost their life, and one's critically injured, and it's supposed to be a day of merriment. And
Yeah,
look what happened.
and as we saw, and this is part of that Dyckman City mentality that I don't know if I think that people misread it. I think that youth misreads that Dyckman City mentality because we see, especially on social media, a lot of like clips of whether it's like a singer and then that clip is like that singer singing and there's like a big crowd around him and he's climbing up a pole and it's like but that's the video, right? Like if you live in Dyckman City area, like yeah, there's parties, yeah, there's fun, but you actually care about your neighborhood and you care about your neighbors. And I don't know that people from outside, well, I now know that people from outside of Dyckman City who want to emulate the Dyckman City ethos, that they don't understand that it's not about chaos, it's about happiness, it's about merriment, and it's about taking care of what's yours. It's like
Hmm.
that graffiti, love yours, like what do you think
Yeah.
that means? It means you're from here, you're making a dollar out of 15 cents, but you're not at the same time shitting on your neighborhood. Like
Yeah.
look at
And
everything. Yeah, every time I see, a lot of times I see like when there's like a lot of garbage on Dyckman Street, like people will post like, "What's up, Dyckman Street? Why do you have so much? Like, let's clean this up." And we're seeing a lot of like community-led cleanups all over the neighborhood.
hmm
There's one coming up there soon.
and back to the businesses, the small businesses on the strip, like you know the Dominican Day Parade day, right? It's supposed to be one of those really good days for those businesses, right? Because you have all these people from out of town. Hey, where do I want to go to be in the milieu of Dominican culture? I'm gonna go to Dyckman. None of those people are gonna go to Dyckman. Like I happen to, so that day, I want to actually go back to that day. So I want to shout out um Toribio, the DJ, and my sister Ada Rojas, right? So they had invited us to this event called Public Service in Brooklyn, right? And public service is my brother Toribio and Mickey Perez. They basically just do like this dope DJ set. The vibes are just dope. It's always done like in parks, you know what I mean? And it's basically like what's amazing. Also, they also do like they have their own. They're affiliated with like a person that designs the actual sound system. So basically, they have like these big, like throughout, they create like almost like a force field of sound, right? With these pretty pink sound system boxes, strategically placed. It gets better. Hold on. Each of them has its own little mini generator that the guy, I forgot his name, created. So basically, each speaker is independently without power out from the outside, and then the DJ booth. And then there's Toribio and Mickey Perez just killing it, right? And I happened to meet Toribio and they came to our house. So he invited us. So I didn't know what to expect. I went with my wife and my middle child, Layla, and it was just really dope. They play a lot of house, they play some salsa, and it was just like the coolest vibes. They had like little vendors, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was really cool food. The drinks were a little expensive, but it is what it is. A beer was $5, not too bad, but like the cocktail my wife was having like 15. It's whatever, but we having a good time, whatever. So I had a great time. Ended early. As we made our way back to uptown. So I wanted to go to Lina. For those that don't know, Lina is my favorite Dominican restaurant uptown. You know what I mean? It's on 207th, right? Right between Nagel and Post, right?
Right by the
So
train
that's like
station.
right by the train. But we came, we all wanted that. I said, okay, let's see if we find a parking. If not, but dumbass is the Dominican Day Parade. Luckily, it was on the fringes, right? So luckily, I found a parking right on 207th, last
Wow.
parking too, so I can't be blocked in, right? So I was the last parking on actually 207 on the corner of Post. And so I was like, whatever you could do, I just back out. You can't, I'm not stuck here, right? So we went, had a great meal at Lena. Lena, always on point. I've been going to Lena since the 90s.
What did you
You know,
eat?
my
What did you eat? I want to know a little bit
so
more about the
so all
meals.
right. So we had they call it filetillo de pollo. So it's basically because we had there's a Chinese influence in our cuisine, right? So it's basically like a chicken stir fry with peppers, onions. You know what I mean? But it's delicious. It has soy sauce. It's a very weird dish for if you don't know it. But it's filetillo de pollo, excellent. My daughter loves it. We all love it. And they also do. We also got camarones al horno. So it's like it comes on the skillet, still like sizzling, and it's basically like garlic and butter with shrimp perfectly boiled, right? With rice and beans. I
That
got
sounds awesome.
tostones, maduros. I had two presidentes. My daughter had a morir soñando. My wife had a limonada. So
Wow.
we're like, great. We ate really well. But now it's no longer the fringes of the Dyckman crowd.
Mm,
It's getting bigger. And I'm like,
mm.
oh shit. So we get in the car. Luckily, we're in the car, right? And now we're headed towards Nagel, right? Because like sometimes I ain't gonna lie. I'm from the hood. I'm really nosy. I'm Dominican nosy, right? Like so that means when you're Dominican nosy, right? That means that if you hear a gunshot, you run towards the gunshot to find out what happened. That's Dominican nosy. I'm Dominican nosy. I'm not gonna lie, right? So I'm like, all right, let's go
I
to
think I'm
Nagel.
Dominican nosy too.
So I make the right on Nagel, right? But I'm noticing there's a lot of people just walking in the streets like that. There's always people on Nagel, always, right? People, no
Yeah,
matter what time it's on Nagel. But
yeah.
this was different. This was like groups of 10, 12 people walking around me. So I was like, if I make a right, I can see more of this. But I was like, and then I was like, I don't know. So then when we get to 204th, like by the gas station,
Hmm.
even to make that left was crazy. I'm doing like slalom type driving things, right? But already, so this is by the basketball court, Dyckman basketball court, right
Uh-huh.
next to the
Yeah,
project.
yeah, yeah,
That shit is filled with people, and that's like there's never like that many people. I mean, people are hanging out, of course,
yeah. And
always
there
in
was
the
an
area,
issue there too.
but yeah, there
There
was
was
an
a
issue there too.
yeah.
So it was already arrest. So I was like, oh shit. So what I did was I got on the highway. I went. So I live in the 180s, but I was no way I could get there from here. So I ended up going to taking the FDR, getting off on 158th,
And
and
coming around.
155th and coming around, and then I
Yeah.
was able to get home without a problem. But again, that's how bad it was that day.
Well, it was a smart. You took a smart route, but yeah, I mean, I saw. I wasn't there. I was here, um, and I looked at the video, and somebody did a drone video of the crowd. I don't know if you
Oh, I
saw that
saw
on
that. Yeah,
social.
I
It
reposted
was
that. Yeah, I reposted
really
that.
good, really good. But you really got a sense of like the massive scale of the crowd that was there, and it was tremendous. It was tremendous. So again, I think partly is that perhaps the parade organizers, you tell me, maybe they're a little bit out of touch with what's going on, like on the street in the neighborhood, like to not have foreseen this huge crowd. I think is partly on them, and to not have really
I don't think
planned.
so though. I don't think that's fair. I mean, I don't think
You
that's
don't
fair
think
to
that
put on them. I don't
you
think
don't
that's
think
fair.
that they should have planned for like activations post parade?
I mean, listen, I think that's you really willing to like get people. Why don't you do another job on top of the job that they have? Like the job is the parade. Like that's a job in itself. Like I mean, I don't think it's fair to put it on the parade organizers. Like on top of the parade you're putting together, also figure out a post parade. I don't think that's fair to them. I don't think
I don't
they're
know
like
how it works, so I can't say whether or not it's too much or not enough. I don't know.
yeah. But I'm not just
Somehow
not. I
though,
don't. I'm not comfortable with putting that on them. I don't think it's their fault.
well, I think it's a coordinated. It's got to be coordinated. I don't think it's just on them. I think it's a whole. There's got to be more thought. Frankly, at the end of the day, it's not about pointing fingers. I don't think I'm not trying actually. if that's what it seems like I'm doing,
That's what it seemed like. Yeah.
then then
I'm not pointing fingers when I'm pointing fingers. Yeah.
well, if I'm pointing fingers, it's just what I'm saying. I'm sorry about that. I do
Mm.
apologize
You don't
for
have to
pointing
apologize. It's all right.
fingers. But what I do think though is that not enough thought has been put into what are we going to do after the parade,
Yeah,
not just
agree.
by the organizers but by everybody. We need to figure out, okay, now we know it's a thing. This was a tragedy. Somebody lost their life. I don't know if you know, and that can never happen from this kind of event. And so it just means that in the future there's going to have to be a lot more thought that goes into what happens after the parade, because
I agree.
clearly there's a desire, right, to have fun, right, to do something to continue the party. And how can we do that in a way that benefits all
Yeah.
the
So
people coming in from out of town and the community in which it occurs? So that's
yeah. So that's why I want to also commend Carmen de la Rosa again, our council
yeah,
member. Like
yeah,
she sprang into action, held press conferences about this, right? Brought
yep,
attention to it because I think it kind of got felt kind of like there was a lot of outrage on social. But
hmm,
I don't think there was a lot of talk about it as much in in more like in other fields, in other areas. So I'm glad she called attention to it. And I mean, I think that the police presence that's happening today, is because of her efforts. So
yeah, yeah,
that's a good thing. And again, I think this is a learning experience. I do feel that that going forward, the National Dominican Day Parade organization, should somehow, just kind of like work in tandem so people know there's an official event. I would never blame them for this. I don't think that's even fair. I don't think that's fair in any way. You know what I mean? So I'm not. That's not what I believe. But again, I think it's a learning. We
it's
know
their
what
fault,
happened
it's their
now.
fault. Just kidding, just
No,
kidding,
yeah, like
just kidding, it's a joke.
that's him, Octavio Blanco, not me.
It's a joke, it's
No,
a
but
joke,
seriously, like
like
I
I
just, I
said.
just think it's not fair. Like it's really not
Yeah,
fair
no,
to blame
I hear you.
them.
I'm not
Like
trying to
it
blame.
didn't happen. It didn't happen in the parade,
No,
right? It
I'm
happened
not trying
in
to blame.
uptown,
I'm not trying to blame.
right?
I'm not. That's not. That wasn't the point. Again, so I just want to make it clear. I'm not. I'm not trying to blame. What I'm trying to do is make sure that there's more thought next year and every year afterwards, so we can do something awesome. You know,
Yeah, I
we just
agree.
got to
I
do something.
agree. I agree. I think it's an opportunity to do something awesome, to improve, to create something. That's go like again. That's why I think behind the bend, like my old stomping grounds as a kid, I think that's the perfect place where you used to do it, and it gets people out of the Dyckman area because what you want you don't want to add more pressure on Dyckman. You want those business to attract their people, right?
Hmm.
But just groups of people in that area on that day is a
Yeah.
bad idea. You know what I
Also,
mean?
like
And
I think there's a miss. Like, unfortunately, I think Quisqueya Plaza is great. Like, I'm glad it's there, but it's good for smaller activations. Like Quisqueya Plaza is not big enough for like this size of activation. People want to do everything there because it is Quisqueya Plaza. It is the heart of Little Dominican Republic. But I think at the end of the day, you got to recognize that it's limited right there. And like you said,
it,
it's
yeah, Quisqueya Plaza is perfect for many activations, but they
yes,
have to be controlled. And it can't be open ended. So because I love Quisqueya Plaza, it's right on the Dyckman strip at the prime place. I've done as part of NILIF, the New York Latino Film Festival. We've done I think four NILIF Dyckman block parties. Every year for the festival to end the festival. The plan is to do another one this year. It's going to be amazing and incredible. I think we do some of the best activations in Quisqueya Plaza. And even that it could be in jeopardy, right? So we're now also working to make sure that our event happens on I think it's Sunday, September 20th at Quisqueya Plaza. So that's the 2026 Nolif Dyckman Block Party. We'll be doing them I think 4 years now. Tremendous energy, no problems, and like that those events like that, those activations like that, like Timberland's done activations like that. We did a great activation we had like with the Penguin show, the new Penguin show.
Yeah, that was
You know,
great.
we did a great activation. We had the Dominican because his sidekick is Dominican. We had the sidekick there, and it was a great activation. We showed some of it, but those activations are also great because the businesses there profit, right? Because all the people that go to the festival, they go in small groups and they nourish that whole strip. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So that's super important. So you know the activation is just all those things need to be controlled, but we need to keep doing activations because it's important that we like. I think we need to do activations more now, right? Because you need to occupy those spaces so they don't get taken over by people. Just again, like we have no problem with people coming uptown. Come uptown with love, like let's do it.
Yeah.
But again, it has to be controlled. It can be chaotic. Like you think about all those people parked cars right there in the Leo Flat Fix, right there
Hmm.
on Dyckman and at the beginning of Seaman Avenue. They fucked up so many cars. So many cars were destroyed. Like this is your like again, these are working vehicles. Like my car is not like I don't have a sports car. I have this is how I go to work every day. This is how I
Yeah.
could take my family places. I pick up my mom who's about to be 89, right? Like this vehicle is everything to me. Like, yeah, so my deductible, like the expenses of this is a disaster
Oh
for
yeah, your
uptown. I don't
deduct
think they've quantified how much money's lost, but tons of money was lost there.
our insurance is going to go up. You know, everything is just for living here because of that. So it's
Yeah,
we're already dealing with a lot of issues with like car theft and things like that.
tell
So
me about it, brother.
yeah, you had your car stolen, and
But Octavio, I want to remind everyone to please subscribe to the channel. You know,
yeah,
I want you to tell them about our relationship with Mazels, just so people know that don't know
yeah,
what's our relationship with Mazels.
it's important that we mention this, and the Mazel's Documentary Center is a really important um, place here in Uptown. I think they're located down at they're I know that they're located down in Harlem, and basically it's devoted to documentary film, to helping documentary filmmakers. And we applied to become a fiscally sponsored project of Mazel's, which means that even though we are not ourselves a 501c3 nonprofit, that we can accept tax deductible contributions through Mazel's that are tax deductible to you, to the contributors. So Mazel's helps us. I'm going to put up a code, a QR code here um, for you guys to check out. You can scan that code to make a tax deductible contribution. It goes through a PayPal account that's associated with Mazel's. Mazel's takes a cut, but it's actually a very small cut, and it helps us to fund things that we need. And so we hope that our viewers and our supporters will go to this QR code and contribute. It could be $1, it could be $1,000. It could
Yeah,
be
and
however
and
much you want.
and thank you to everyone that's contributed thus
Yeah,
far. It really
yeah.
means a lot. And I want to talk about. I just went to an event at Mazels on Friday. And and again, it's funny because I do social media for West Harlem Development Corporation, so I've known from about Mazels for a long time. They've had such amazing programs, right? So they have programs like great films, like super woke films.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? But then they also do free of cost programs for the community for teenagers making film. So, but I was blown away like when I entered the space. I was like, man, we need something like this further uptown, right? Because it's a small art house theater on Lenox Ave, right? And they're showing films that really have substance that you're not going to see many other places. And so this the title of this film, Octavio, you cannot say this, so don't say it.
Oh God.
Okay. Okay. So the title of the film is called Field Niggas. It is by Khalik Allah. I've been following Khalik Allah for a long time, right? So I first came across his photography, I want to say like early 2012, 2013, around there, I think. And what was really amazing is that like, so I would see him again because of the Uptown Collective. I'm always doing alerts on things for Harlem, Inwood, Wash Heights, the Bronx. So I always get these alerts. So I started getting alerts for Khalik Allah's work. And the first time I think I saw his work was on Time magazine, right? And what made his work incredible, right, is that he basically would go just to 125th and Lex and then shoot, you know, the people on the fringes, the drug addicts, the people that are having a hard time in life, but doing their best, doing with drug addiction, poverty, you know, incarceration, and all these things. But the pictures were gorgeous. I mean, it looked like he had like lighting that was perfect, and these beautiful faces that you knew that these people had problems with drugs, but because Kalika La could capture their light, you saw them as human, you saw them as more like there was such power in his work. So again, Time was talking about, so everyone started talking about Kalika La, and what he does is he periodically puts out these little small films that basically travel the globe, in the film festival circuit, but you may never ever get to see them, right?
Mm.
So two Field Niggas was shot in 2014, like right after Eric Gardner got killed, right? And the film is heavy. It's only a minute, an hour, but it feels heavier. And he does like the way. So basically, what he did, because he was taking these pictures for so long in this one place, he really grew accustomed to the people. The people felt comfortable with him. He'd be there in the middle of the night, right? And he would walk around with like a picture book of his pictures, and people would see, and then that, oh, okay, this is a person from our community taking our pictures. I want you to take my picture too, right? So he was able to go from the still cameras to moving images, right? And what he would do is he would film them. And a lot of times, because they're so used to him having a still camera, they're kind of like posing for the pictures, and they'll
Mm-hmm.
be talking at the same time, but he's actually filming them. And then he would also record them on a mic. So what's interesting is that the film itself, he'll show you this character. You'll be introduced to a character. He's there, right? And you see him moving in this kind of slow motion, kind of somewhat distorted, and you hear him talking, but it's not tracked to the what you're seeing, right? So there's times where you don't even see him talking. You see the person like this, but you still hear the person talking, and it's like this kind of foray into what like late stage capitalism looks like what happens in those communities that you don't give a fuck about, right? And where there's so much drug addiction, and look what happened to these lives. And it's such a powerful film. There was a young girl there who was probably in her 20s, and she had like a 3-year-old kid outside. And it's another thing interesting about this film, that this was also at the time where K2 was really big, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
So
remember.
K2 was synthetic marijuana, right? For a long time, East Harlem, this area was like the epicenter of the FK2, and K2 was available in bodega, in smoke shops. It was legal, right? And what it did was, because it was made to evade the authorities, meaning you could get drug tested, but you wouldn't have nothing there, because these are basically chemicals sprinkled on plant matter, right? And then the moment you find, like, let's say you find the active ingredient, you outlaw the active ingredient, that just changes to another one.
Yeah.
So it was technically legal, but it was all these people saying, "Hey, you know what? I have prior incarceration issues. I'm not gonna smoke regular weed because I'm gonna get caught for it, but I'm gonna smoke this thing that fucks me up worse and leaves lasting damage." So that film was amazing. But then what was amazing, we saw this film where you're like, "Oh my god!" Like, this was a heavy. It's heavy. And then then I met Kazembe, who we were supposed to have a talk with coming up soon. I got to meet him. He actually interviewed Khalik Allah, who was there after the film, and it blew me away, because like I wanted to meet this man before. Wanted to see this film, but to see the film and to have him talking to us was amazing. Like, one thing he said a lot about was like he saw the light in these people. He didn't see them for the drug addicts that they were. He saw them for the human beings that they were, and he saw no difference between himself and them. It was beautiful. Like, and he was such an intentional person, but also an intentional filmmaker that didn't study film,
Mm.
right? He's a 5%er. I don't know if you know what the 5% Nation is, but the 5% Nation was an offshoot of the Nation of Islam, and it became very important in early hip hop and in the jail system. So much of like hip hop, like words come from, like, word is born, peace, my brother. So much of that early hip hop influence comes from the 5% Nation. But
Mm.
he's, while it's not as popular as it was, he still considers himself 5%. So the on 125th and Adam Clayton 126, I think that's where they have like the most important temple for the 5%ers. So he's always been around Harlem. And again, he was an amazing filmmaker. I'm glad I got to see the film at Maisels, right? Like this kind of important film with an important filmmaker has screened there 3 times, and I happen to be a lucky person to be there. So just support Maisels, support us, support people doing the work in the community, because that's how we all win. Spread love is the Uptown way. Octavio, my brother, you got some last words for us?
No, yeah, help us here. I do, Led. I've had this dream of doing something similar, to have an actual space uptown. One thing at a time. We're working on this,
Mhm.
but the dream is much bigger than this. We want to create physical spaces, not just virtual spaces, where our voices can be heard and seen. Um, I'm just thankful for everybody who's on this journey with us. This is just the beginning, and I feel very encouraged. And I think, you know, it's going to be a lot of work, but I'm here for it. So thank you,
Yes,
Led,
sir.
for being a part of this. Thank you for
Likewise,
the
brother.
audience for being a part of this. Thank you, Maisels, for being a fiscal sponsor to us and giving us that avenue to
Yeah, and
earn
thank you
some.
to everyone. Thank you everyone that's donated so far, because
Yeah,
we already got some donations.
yeah,
They're contributing to our bottom line. So thank you for that, deeply,
yeah.
profoundly. Thank you.
We really, really appreciate it to everybody who's donated. It doesn't have to be a big donation. Just the support, just showing of support is enough, because it makes us feel we're people who I like to feel valued too. So I appreciate everybody's contributions, and it's really wonderful. So thank you.
Yes,
Spread
sir.
love. Led again. Thank you, and let's do it again. We can
Yes,
keep
sir.
going. I'll be back in New York on Wednesday, and hitting the ground running. We'll be
Yes,
doing
sir.
more stuff.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. I'll hit stop now.
Okay.
Uh,